exactly. Yeah, because I think she's going through that
Right.
journey right now. You know what I mean? So
But
hopefully,
that brings us. They
Let's
giving
get
me
it.
the eye like, all right, bro, let's start. Tremaine, like, you'll catch Rob. You'll catch
No,
the.
but a lot
You'll
of this stuff we gotta. That stuff. That's.
It's a
I'm
good
glad
segue.
it
yeah,
is
yeah,
Good
because it's
segue.
definitely gonna connect to a bunch of the stuff we were
yeah.
talking about for the
sure.
media and the influence.
Bet. So let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and introduce a special Big Rob is what I call him. Rob Hill Sr. What's up, man?
What's going on, fellas?
Welcome to the ICU Bro podcast. Today we're talking about media's influence on youth and culture. And we thought that you would be a great person to bring into this conversation. Just giving your track record, your all of just who you are. More than what you do and what you've done, we appreciate who you actively are. And so that's why we wanted to invite you into this conversation. Like, bump what you've done as a black man and what people know you as. We get to watch you every single day. We know what it looks like for you. Everybody doesn't get to know that. So thank you. Shout out to you for coming in into this conversation, bro. Thank you so much for sharing this space with the ICU Bro pod. Cheers.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers. All right, Yuri, what you got for us?
Man, today I want to start the conversation, based on what we were just speaking about. But I wanted to ask each of you individually how you were able to forge your own identity and any influence that social media had within that. And I can start by saying that Twitter, as I remember, it came around 2009. I'm around 16 at that time.
Yeah.
Instagram around 2011, around 18. So this is me becoming my own person, my own man. So I would say like a lot of it was you feel lost in that time, right? You're not sure if what you're doing is the right thing. You're not sure about a lot of things, right? So you in that point in time in my life, I was seeking externally for a lot of answers, right? Thinking that that's where I needed to go for them. So social media, it was almost like I was just studying what a lot of people were just saying. Like, how do you carry yourself? What's done here? What's done? And I felt like I would just read up on it. I would look and I would just like discard whatever I wasn't feeling and then just try to apply whatever I felt, would benefit me or was right for me at that time. Now, was it always right? No, of course not. But you learn through that process. So whoever wants to go next, I'd love to learn about like kind of how you were able to like forge your own identity, from your experience in downloading these apps and kind of logging in for the first time into, where you are now.
I'll share. I think for me, a lot of my success, right, in my career has come from social media. A lot of opportunities for me have come from social media, and so I think I started really taking it serious in about like 2016, right? And I was gonna start. I was gonna start vlogging. It was around that age where people had YouTube videos, and like they were like, that's when influencing had become really, really popular from my perspective. And I felt like I was like, bro, that's cool, but like, what if you like actually took that and you told stories about not only yourself and your journey, but you did that for other people. And so that's how I started my first brand. Is I started creating and writing stories about people in the 757 area. Subconsciously, what I didn't know though is that I had figured out a formula to self-soothe. And in the background, what was happening is I noticed that people clapped when you won, and it got a lot of attention. I realized that we lived in a very, very fearful culture. People were not taking chances. So me taking a chance meant that I was in the top percent of I possibly was gonna win because wasn't nobody doing it. They was
Exactly.
afraid, right? So I knew that if I continued to win, I would continue to get claps, right? It wasn't until recently that I figured out like, yo, bro, like you outside of what you're showing people, outside of your wins and your accolades, in this identity that you're showing people, you're still good enough outside of that, right? And so it forced me to take off all of these masks and identities that I had created for myself that I had kind of found safety in when it came to social media, right? Like as a kid, right? I know I'd never felt seen, right? And so I was able to create this world for myself or this identity for myself in this space. I was good at it, you know, being able to tell a story, right? That's a gift of mine, right? And so social media, it has been a beautiful part, right? But it has also been like a very daunting part too, where I've had to be like, yo, this might not be the right space for you all the time. This is a tool, right? So I say that to say it's been great and amazing for my journey, but here at the end of it, I'm realizing like, if I'm being honest with y'all talk to y'all about it all the time. It's like I can do without it a lot of times.
That's
Nice.
good.
So yeah. What about you, Rod?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I think my upbringing probably had the most impact on me forming an identity. I went to 11 schools before 12th grade. I was constantly around different people in other environments, and you just can't pretend, right?
What's that?
What's cool in California is not the same thing as what's cool in New Jersey. What's cool in Virginia is not the same thing that was going on in North Carolina. You have to learn to be okay with you and how you walk into the room, regardless of how other people respond to you. I tried to apply that form of thinking to social media. My identity in real life, I believed up until that point, was somebody who brought some energy, right? Somebody who was positive, somebody who could lead, somebody who was well read, somebody who had a pretty good memory and could contribute something to the conversation, right? Or at least spark a conversation that was worthwhile. So bring Twitter and these platforms. So my first, all right. So there's kind of two beliefs that I started growing up with, right? It was like you could either be the contributor or the consumer. So my identity is that I'm a contributor.
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
I'm gonna contribute. So on social media, it was an extension of my chance to contribute, right? And what do I like? I like quotes. I've always liked quotes. Because I think quotes are digestible pieces of information that you can take action on, right? And I love them for that purpose. And I wanted to share more of these things. It just so happens that I was kind of formed and shaped to be a writer, right? My mom's a writer. Her friends were writers. And it really influenced how I saw myself existing. When we talk about social media's impact on my identity, I think more than any other experience in the world, social media made me want to be me. Like, I don't want to be anybody else.
I felt that.
I don't, you get what I'm saying? Like, if we were to all write our problems on a plate, I would want mine.
Especially when you see so many mimicking others too in that space.
Social media taught me how many people were absent a clear purpose. How many people, and it's not to say that they weren't assigned one, they just they weren't aware, right? And for me, I gravitated to people who had good information. I gravitated to people who felt unique, right? But I really gravitated to people who I think had a presence offline. To me, those are like the most fascinating people online because they don't pretend, right? Like, I didn't come to social media because I thought everyone ignored me in all my classes. I went to 11 schools. I felt heard at every one of them. I felt seen and remembered. Like that's one thing that I've always felt in my life, remembered. And I've always thought, damn, that's a gift, right? When you bounce around like this, you expect to be forgotten.
Right.
But it was something that wanted me to show up and be remembered, right? So social media gave me another chance to make those impressions. And I thought like, you know, very young, my mom told me don't ever say or write something that you can't sign your name beside. So I wasn't worried about social media for like wilding out. I think, you know, when I'm 36 now, so to put this in context, I signed up for MySpace in like 04, 03.
Damn.
I was sharing notes. Like when they dropped that, I was sharing my first poems and notes. Prior to that, I would share my poems as the away message on AIM.
Oh, word.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Facebook had grown.
Yeah.
And I started sharing it there. In 2007, I built my own blog spot and started, you know, sharing, like trying to divert the audience from Facebook to my own platform, right? And then from there, I grew an email list. But social media has always been an integral part about reaching a lens that my feet can't walk to yet, right? I've been able to sell books in 50 plus countries because of social media, right? And the fact that good ideas can travel fast there if they reach the right eyes. And reflective prompts can travel fast. Like so much information can travel fast if people feel like, damn, there's something for me in there, you know? So informing my identity, social media really made me want to be me, but it also made me want to be a helpful part of society. Like it showed me where I could fit, where I could solve things, where I could speak up a little bit more, where I needed to show up a little bit more, which conversations I don't need to fan and flame, right? Which conversations, like it just, I think social media just gave me a view of one of my generation, but also of like the pulse of the generation, right? And I think lastly, I say it made me want to be me because I think that in modern times there is a social media personality, right? And it's like you got all of your ideas from tweets, like you got all of your style and personality from what you think is the Instagram aesthetic or thought process. And I think that that is just so detrimental to like our overall development, because the thing that makes us beautiful, people are trying to dull it out now, right? So I again, I'm not a anti-social media. I think it's really good when you know who you are.
Yeah.
I think it's really good when you know what you want to learn. I think it's incredible when you have a purpose and you want to connect with like-minded people.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's dope for those things. I think it can be harmful when you are absent those things, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you said I had that moment too, and it's like, okay, it's one of two people in this world: a contributor or a consumer. And I am a consumer, but I'm definitely it's like I'm gonna put more into this. I'm always gonna deposit, you know, more. So that's a good point, and I think that's something that we should bring up to everybody listening when it comes to the internet, and like when it comes to the young people that might be listening, right? Like you can either consume everything that's given to you, and if we're old enough now to know that like everything that's given to you is not good. It is not of value, right? Being a contributor is knowing your purpose and what you want to add to this world, so everybody can eat the best way, right? And so everybody that is like trying to figure out their journey on when their place in social media, it's like understand that you don't need to take in everything, and you only need to put out what you absolutely feel like you're led to.
Yeah, because I didn't even start contributing until I got to that point. Like, oh, I know what I want to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going after this type. You know, but until then, I was just a student. I was observing. I'm like trying to figure out. Not to go too deep because it goes into another question, but what's your perspective, Mars? What was it like for you?
Yeah, Mr. Yeah, because you
I'm a
out here,
proof.
bro.
Yeah,
You're Mr.
yeah.
Popular right now.
Right.
Yeah, and that
You're a walking ticket.
that-
bro.
Exactly,
that
exactly.
kind of actually is a testament to kind of how it influenced me or my journey. Because you see, I'm kind of late to the party, shall we say, but it's right on time for
I
me.
wouldn't say
I
that.
guess my journey, but I didn't have my purpose on what I wanted to contribute, right? And I also didn't really care to contribute. I was more
Mhm.
so consuming. I used social media as a youngster, say I can say youngster now. Basically, like you said, aimlessly, just trying to maybe a thirst trap here, maybe
Mhm.
what are they doing over there, and kind of just a way of communicating just goofiness, right?
Mhm.
And so back in the thing that was popular was Vines, right? If you remember Vines. And so it was just small clips of just random things, right? And so that's kind of how I used it. And my mom told me I couldn't have a MySpace, so I quickly moved from that. When I got on Instagram, like I said, it was just totally different. I was more so the people that you said you like to gravitate towards more. What are you behind the screen, right? And so I guess I was more so a healer in that purpose that I didn't really know until now, and now I can harness it to use it for social media. But I was a DM guy, you know what I mean? Like I would make people feel good differently outside of social media, and people would gravitate towards that energy. So it's actually pretty weird. I mean, I never really used social media until recently, like I do. And I said, I guess I use social media to help others feel good about themselves, and that's kind of really what I harness it for now. But there's so much on there that take people left. I just don't want to lose my specific message now that I have a purpose. So. If it was up to me, I feel like you said, we can do so much better without it. I don't really need it, but it does help me communicate and reach further audiences.
It's a benefit, yeah.
And then especially it's ever evolving too. You got some cool. If I see something like that's a TikTok challenge or something like that, I want to see how I can switch it to actually what my message is, which is mental health advocacy and stuff. So that in itself is a challenge to me, and it helps me stay on my toes with my purpose. So
Okay.
right now it's what I use to keep people happy. So
Yeah.
I would vote to keep social media they can adopt the same hours as Chick-fil-A.
Sundays off.
Close at 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Right. So I was gonna
Take the internet off. Yep.
That
We
leads
just don't
right into
need it 24 hours a day.
Yeah, that's gonna lead right into this next question, man. We've had a couple stances on social media, right?
Yeah.
So what is your individual stance on if it's helped or hindered the culture as a whole? I'll go first with my stance. I'll say, as a whole, social media has hindered our culture. I say that because for as many people, you're not going to come into many rooms where everyone in the room knows their purpose and what they want to contribute to society. For every one of us here, it's a lot of other people that are lost, right? It's a lot of other people like that at a certain point, like I was, that were looking externally for answers. Only thing is that they continue to do so as they grow, right? Like I said, we are blessed to have found our purpose, to have acted on our purpose, and to still do so and continue to do so. But realize that in the grand scheme of things, in the world of 8 billion people, we're rare, right? I think that social media, with all the BS that's on there, with all the satire, with all the street fights, with all the violence, with all the misinformation, leads a lot more people astray than it does leading them on the path that they need to be on. There are some voices out there that are helping folks. There are some folks. We got a few in this room right now sitting with us, right? But it's so much more damage that can be caused out there from and folks consuming it, that I feel like overall it has hindered, because it's gotten people away from, instead, I feel, relying on community, relying on maybe parents or family for guidance, for wisdom, right? They're trying to search for that on Instagram, because This guy told him to open up 3 credit cards, and he got a Rolls Royce. Like they're looking for the message in the wrong places, I feel. And I just use that as an example, but it's so many things that we can just lean on family, that we can lean on community for, that I feel like it's separating people from that to this one device, this one app, to these accounts, right? To look for that. And I feel like that's where the hindrance came from. I think there was a separation in community, although social media, there is places where community is being built too. So it's very double-sided, I'll say, but from my stance, where I stand from, it's caused more hindrance. So that's my stance and my point on why I feel that way. But I would love to get your points, because I know at least 1 or 2 of y'all are for it.
So, yeah, as you were talking, I'm like, oh, let him finish.
Yeah, I heard you trying to interrupt a couple times. I was not.
No, because I was like,
I was not.
Ignore Yuri. Ignore.
I'm reporting y'all.
Okay, so I can understand why you're absolutely saying this is a hindrance to us, right? I agree. There is absolutely a downfall to socials, but there's a downfall to everything in this world. I don't think anything created. I don't think anything created is by chance. Everything has a negative component to it. And because this is something that's so new, like it just said in this article, that was the early 2000s, right? That's how we should be approaching this, how we should be using this is still developing. Like, and if you like notice, even when it comes to porn, right? Like porn dominates a lot of the internet, a lot of social platforms, right? And now there are laws that say, like, in order for you to get on those websites in certain states, you have to like essentially like you have to give consent and register and do all these things. It's not so I'm saying that to say, like, y'all get on my nerves.
How you know?
This is definitely a boys podcast. Like, nah. But the point that I'm trying to make is, y'all get on my nerves. Is that there's gonna be hindrance to everything. There's True. Gonna and it's there and they're gonna be bad. There's gonna be bad to everything. Can we like shift that, right? And so I guess my stance is not so much of like not in support of the internet or supporting the internet, but I guess more so a optimistic perspective of something like this is a tool that has the potential to really change the way that we see things and receive information, but like everything, boundaries on it is what we really need. Because the way that I can Google something, my 2024 brain is not going to the library to get an encyclopedia. I'm gonna just Google it. Mm-hmm. And so like the internet, yes, social media, like, and I guess clarification moment. Are we saying that? Are you asking specifically about social media?
Like the TikTok, the Instagram, the Twitter.
Like, is it a hindrance?
Yes.
No. I think no. I'm still keeping my same stance. Like, I love being able to like chat with my friends real quick, or like see how can I support you, right? So again, boundaries. Like, what are the boundaries on this space?
But
like
what I would speak like. When we speak about how we navigate social media, it doesn't apply to you know what I'm saying? Because the same way we're able to set boundaries, the lady you were speaking on before didn't set boundaries. Yeah. In her own personal life, in her own, like in the story.
But you can say a hindrance though, bro. That's wild to me. Because it's like the fact that we're able to learn so fast. Like, I cannot discount that. No. The fact that I'm able to download.
But you about to
say,
Rob?
You can learn from. I want to jump in.
Go ahead.
Because I feel
talk,
like
bro.
There's so much value in what you both are saying. I'm trying to decide, right? Like, Yuri's stance is powerful. Brenton's stance is powerful. I don't call it a hindrance because we don't have a collective goal. No one decided social media is collectively for growth or collectively for entertainment.
That is a good point.
Or collectively for black people's advancement, or collectively for women to be able to not have their bodies controlled, right? We haven't agreed on a collective purpose for social media, but we do have a collective understanding. We don't want to live in this world without each other. We don't want to live in a world where there are no ideas exchanged, where there's no funny things said, where there's no reflective moments, where there's no spirituality being exchanged. We don't want to live in that space.
I have a question.
And I think that
Finish off.
and I think that it's not a hindrance just because of that, right? Because some people need it for entertainment. I know the people who, pass jokes and memes, and that helps them get through a job they may not love, right? And I think that that is important and that is valuable, because not everybody is going to have the privilege of loving what they do, but that does not mean that their job doesn't serve a greater good, right? So even the people who are doing stuff that they hate, I need them to be able to get through it in a way that benefits us, right? When I was in the military, I did not love the job. I knew I needed to perform it at a standard, right? That would keep my family home, would allow a future, some different things. You get what I'm saying? So I don't call it a hindrance for that. I also, on the other side, I'm a glass half full type of person, right? So I want to see the benefits of a thing. And just because I saw people misusing a spoon, I wouldn't say it was a valuable utensil, right? And I see social media similarly, right? People have a tool that is vast, that is dynamic, that moves at the speed of light, that crosses international boundaries, that weaves in between age groups and all types of dynamics. And some people just don't understand the full power of that tool.
Yeah.
So seeing it being misused, I try to deal with it the same way I would interact with a sick person, which is without anger, with patience, with understanding.
Drop
right?
say you sick.
And no, not just, but I'm saying like, I do think there's a certain element of sickness that is attracted to people's despair, that is attracted to hate trains, that is attracted to just ganging up on people because you don't like how they look or you don't enjoy their features, or they may have done something that your friend didn't like, right? And then now that there's this year's worth of attacks, I don't agree with those yieldings, right? But I don't agree with those in any setting, not just on social media. I do see some harmful aspects, and they are very hard to ignore. So I'm there with you on the ideas that could be exchanged for our greater good. I do think that we are maybe underestimating the value of that, but also just like overcalculating the time we have to deal with and fix certain things, right? And I think that some of the urgency I hear you express is important and should be encouraged, right? But it's also like, I like to ask people, why do you think it took Moses 40 years to lead the people, right? It's probably because he had to go back and convince some people to keep walking.
Right.
It's probably he had to go back and remind some people what they were leaving and where they were going to, right? I think that sometimes wildernesses are hard to navigate, and that lends to your point. This is still such a new technology. We are still, like, you interacted at it when you were a teen. I interacted with it when I was in my early 20s. Some people interacted with it when they were in their 30s. Some people, like it was a guy in my class, he was born in 2002. He interacted with it like when he was like 8, So, yes, can I talk about all the things I dislike seeing on social media? Sure, but I would just be talking about TV. I would just be talking about certain aspects
Video
of society
games, all that
aren't
shit,
filmed on the regular, right? Because I don't, I see how GTA can consume people's time, but I don't get the interest in just robbing people all the time. But I'm from a neighborhood that's not fun to me.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so, I just think that us as a generation, we're going to have to ask ourselves some very specific questions about where we want to be on the other side of all this.
Yeah. And go ahead, Mars.
No,
You didn't ask your question.
Oh.
but I didn't mean to.
So before I ask the question, is my stance comes, then that urgency comes from We're 20 years in now. Early 2000s, 2024. This is an extremely powerful tool. Can be used for good, bad, neutral, whatever. My sense of urgency comes from the fact that I feel, one, the trauma that black people as a whole and just immigrants in this country as a whole faced, right, has been passed down generation through generation. It's something that still not been healed yet, right? Social media, we live in an information surplus as well. Yet reading comprehension, writing comprehension is going down in a lot of areas in this country, right? And you can pull up the statistics too to see it. So it's just like, it's not being used for what it can truly be used. That's where I have a problem with the content creators. That's where I have a problem with just it as a whole. And maybe it's because I have kids, and that was the question. Like, do you feel that the perspective changes when you have a little one? Because the shit I see, I'm like, boy, he's not seeing this, right? So it's like, my urgency comes from the fact that, nigga, we not gonna live forever, bro. We're not. So when is it gonna be time where we're, as a collective, we're like, look, this is a powerful ass tool. Black people are scheduled to have a net worth of $0 by 2050. It's probably gonna happen before that. When are we gonna use these tools for our benefit? Like, when are we gonna use these tools to create the communities that we've been longing for? Like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? So that's where it comes from. I See You, Bro is brought to you by City Center at Oyster Point. Discover the peninsula's best kept secret at City Center at Oyster Point in Newport News. Experience their growing culinary scene with new restaurants such as Satay and Amaro Italian Bistro, or grab small bites at Tinto Wine and Cheese.
City Center regularly hosts events like free fitness classes, open mic night at Cure Coffee, and Latin dance night at Sauce's Mexican Grill. You can even treat yourself to some self-care at the Eyelash and Eyebrow Bar, or catch a movie at Cinemark. There's also the Contemporary Arts Network Gallery, a haven for art enthusiasts.
City Center isn't just a hotspot. It is the up-and-coming foodie paradise and Peninsula's best-kept secret. Whether you're going out for date night or family-friendly fun, City Center is the gem you've been looking for. Stop by and discover why City Center at Oyster Point in Newport News is your perfect destination for any occasion. For more information, check out their website, citycenter@oysterpoint.com, or give them a follow at citycenter@oysterpoint.
These are powerful questions, but there's a lot of nuance that goes into that.
Yeah.
I don't believe that black people just wake up. How can we underperform?
Nah.
You know?
Yeah, I know,
I
but
don't
it's
believe
just
that
like,
we wake up.
I feel like I
Thinking-
beg to differ.
Well,
I beg to differ in
see,
that.
but
Not specifically like that, but I agree with him. So look,
Get close to your mic. I can't
so
hear you.
let me say it this way. All right, so I'm not on the fence, but I'm on the same side as Yuri as how it hinders us, right? With everything through your life's journey, you should come up with the pros and cons list, right? Yuri said something obviously that a lot of people won't get, and a lot of people will call cocky or whatever. We're rare, okay? Even in the black community, we're rare, right? Men community, we're rare. We're thinking about our journeys. We're thinking about how do we evolve, how do we help humanity, right? And that's why we stand out. That's why we're here today. Unfortunately, there's not too many like us because of that rare kind. And so why I'm on this side and why I'm saying I beg to differ is because when do we ask these questions? I've been asked, anytime I pose questions like that to people, they're like, well, that's just the way it is. Well, when does it stop being the way it is? You have to ask these questions, and then you have to act on these questions, right? So like I said, once again, with anything, you should have a pros and a cons list. When you have more cons on that list than pros, take a look at it, right? And so if you want to talk about social media's influence or hindrance on black men as a whole, here's what I'll say. This is my 3 ideas, is that there's focused on the emasculation of black men, right? They're going to portray a culture of disrespect, sex, and death on our black men and our culture as a whole.
And they have
Right.
successfully.
And very successfully. It's subconscious now. And then one of the pros is it poses opportunities, right? And that's one of the biggest pros, and that's what we continuously say, to be on the side of, oh, it helps. Social media is a good thing for us. Outreach and reach in that way. But I feel like we're at a point as a culture where outreach is not important anymore. We have to find, technically that is outreach, but you find the rare people, you start leading, right? You start creating again, your Greenwoods and all these other places that got sunken or torn down, right? And it's not so much anymore about opportunities. We're so much worried about these opportunities. What about the opportunity to come together and not be a zero worth net worth, right? And so when I say it's a hindrance, you said this earlier, we can live without it. We really can. And as you're saying, yes, this stuff is new, right? But all your statistics point towards cons. And I've done these research because when I was in school for psychology.
Well, that's all that I've done research
no, I'm not
for.
saying I've
Because
done
you know
plenty.
me,
No, I
I'll
got
get
you.
the statistics.
Hey,
But I've done plenty, and it's on video
Okay.
games.
we could do episode
Okay.
2 when
It's
you got
on-
the other one.
Right.
Okay,
all of that.
I hear what y'all say. I'm gonna let
And
you.
so-
I'm gonna let you
and
finish.
so I'm not saying that
hmm
it poses opportunities, right? We can keep saying that all
Mhm.
day, right? But what opportunities? And one thing that stuck out to me was you said we don't all have a collective goal. And I was like, damn, that man spit.
Yeah, for real.
We don't.
We don't.
But guess who does? The people that own Instagram, the people that own Facebook, the people that own the social media platforms. They have a collective goal, and that's what they're showing us, right? And that's what they're able to successfully give to us. Back to what my opinion of what's going on, the emasculation of black men, portraying sex, death, and stupidity upon
or just
certain
whatever gets you
cultures.
to consume their product.
And that day, right? Whoever is endorsing them more, sponsoring them more for their Super Bowl commercial, So doing the same thing to expect different results is insanity. And insanity is exactly what you said. How can I underperform today? And that's what we're doing continuously. Underperforming.
but-
I feel like the only, and I got you, but the only way to change that is to stop saying this is how it is or there's opportunity. But that opportunity is gonna only keep going where that collective goal is continuously gathering mindless people, shall I say? If that makes sense. I hope I kind of
No, I'm with you.
made sense on
I
where I
got
was
a
saying
couple.
it.
I want to hear Brenton, and then I'll jump in.
Y'all stress me out.
I know. We're supposed to.
Go ahead and join the
It's
bald
love
gang,
stress.
brother.
So I see what you're saying. But it's kind of like, okay, I get dropped off on this island. And it's like, oh, okay, I stumble across a stream of water, but I don't know how to swim. You know what I mean? Do I stay away from it because I might drown, or do I just like take the time that I need? That's just an analogy that I want to bring into that. And that's kind of how I see it. Anything revolutionary, like the internet, anything that we've read about, anything that we've experienced, it takes time to tailor.
How much time?
But also, like, that's why these types of conversations are important, right? Because we're 20 years into something that is revolutionary, right? And we're like, okay, we do see the hindrance of it, but the pro is like, we're going to use this to our benefit. And so it's like, I see what y'all saying, but we're also on Beyonce's internet promoting this.
Man, she
And
don't
so
own
it's
that shit.
like,
But like you just said, though, yeah, it's somebody else's, right? It's somebody else's
And
collective
so-
idea,
It's somebody
you
else's
know?
product
Yeah.
So-
being consumed.
So I get what you're saying. Also, to your point, Mars, like it has done a terrible job of portraying us and telling our stories.
Mhm.
It does
which
not.
we retweet and continue help passing it along.
I think we're conflating some ideas. Since the 1900s, there are white men portraying us in blackface
Mhm.
and doing caricatures of how we behave and what we find funny and our voices and our slang.
Yeah.
We are depending on an American system to portray us accurately. I think that's a false premise,
Yeah.
right? This country has never been invested in your honorable representation
Mm-hmm.
or in your honorable presentation, right? It's just not of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So to act like we need social media to model something that Fox, CNN, BET, MTV, every network that's ever existed could not do, I think it's misleading.
I will
Right?
say-
Now, we're saying, how long do we wait? How many guys, let's not be naive. Any issue that is honorable or important to you, there's somebody on social media fighting it right now. 10 people. Let's not be naive in the sense that it's because it's not the popular thing that it's not happening.
Oh no,
I think that would make us
Mhm.
trendy in our thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? I also believe that the A Course in Miracles talks about the power of the mind, right? And the mind is so powerful, you can only misuse its power, but you can never diminish it. Right? Social media, we are just misusing it, right? But I think that misuse causes us to diminish what it really is, and I don't think that we should be diminishing what it is just because we've seen people misuse it, right? And when we just really talk about like our representations of us and all of that things, it's like Mother Teresa says, if you really want to change the world, go home and love your family.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that there needs to be this critical mass of everybody saying, boom, we solid. Guess what? It's still going to be some people who are pretending. It's still going to be some people who are just doing it because it's trendy. There's still going to be some homes left unchanged. So until we really accept that social media is not the leader or the safeguard, it's neither one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not the thing that we all should be focusing on. The thing that we all should be the thing that probably is more important is the ideas that are proliferated there, right? So you have this in your heart and you feel like it's safe here on social media. Well, why? I've never heard you say that in person.
Mm-hmm.
You believe these things. Why? Right? And I think that there is a personality that's developing on the internet that people use to escape maybe their real life or some form of that, right? But I don't see social media as the thing that's breaking us down. I look back historically on all the black men I've ever tried to look up on TV, and probably 90% of them had to be comedians first.
Mm.
How many famous black men you know who weren't comedians first that broke through on the Hollywood screen?
Yeah.
Why we always gotta be funny?
Yep.
Why we can't be brilliantly intelligent? Why we just gotta be funny or athletic? That's it, right?
Court
But when I
justice.
hear you talk about us being rare, I respect W.E. Du Bois, but I'm not a member of the Talented 10th. I think specialness, and Course in Miracles talks about this, specialness is the root of all bad decisions. This idea that I'm special, I'm set apart. See, the only thing that's happening right now is the belief that we're separate. That's what's keeping us all from love. That's what's keeping us all from the magnitude and glory that God designed for us to experience in heaven on earth, right? But this belief that I'm special, I'm rare, I'm different, I'm set apart, right? That requires you to think less of people that you're here to serve. I can't do it. I'm not special. I had the opportunity to make a decision when I did. Now I get a lifelong of service towards trying to spark other people recognizing their opportunity to do the same. I could do it on social media. I could do it by showing up in person. I could do it through my family. I could do it through a lot of ways. But I am not going to depend on social media to spark that, because I just think that that would be naive.
Yeah.
Just much like I would depend on the seat of the presidency to change the tone of the country. It's a little naive. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
How many people think that way though?
But before that,
So it's not about how many that think that way. In order for critical mass to be reached, you don't need every person.
Just
you need the
enough.
right people. You get what I'm saying?
Listen up.
I
And
agree.
you
that's
so
kinda where
I've traveled
the
from
rare was
from
coming
Toronto
you
to
know?
Johannesburg to California to New York, and I've seen the right people in all types of environments.
Mhm.
I do know that maybe they don't have all the resources. I do know that, you know, when we talk about us uplifting, it's like, all right, we'll start another Greenwood, right? But even the Greenwood that Killer Mike and them started is founded by white investment banks.
Boom.
The Freedman Bank that was, you know, that got robbed and that we started.
SBF?
White investment banks. That's why they were then able to take it and bankrupt it, right? When it started exceeding their stuff, they didn't reward us by giving us lower interest, you know? So this idea that, why are we not thinking about the greatness? I think people are, but to act like life isn't really happening, right? Like there are people who literally go to school for 20 years to study how to keep us in this predicament,
Right.
to keep us talking about the same things, to keep us concerned with the same things,
Applied
And that's
to-
why I bring
to-
up those
to
questions,
package
baby.
the new products, right?
Yeah.
But you bringing up those questions, there's one main thing that we all as leaders have to hold on to, which is you cannot antagonize and influence at the same time.
Yeah, but when I say rare, it's not to diminish anybody that we're serving.
You understand
It's
what I'm
to
saying?
say, take a look around at your families. How many of those men are truly living their purpose? It's not many in mine. So
Well-
when I say rare, it's not to say I think of myself more than them. It's to say, as I stated before, we're blessed
That's
to have gone through the journey to find ourselves in this predicament where we found our purpose through our life's journey. Many didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah, I was about to say,
We
I
have
think-
people that didn't make it to 21, 25, 30. They didn't get the opportunity. So we are blessed. And that's where I say rare, because through life circumstances, through upbringings, through traumas, through death, a lot of people don't get that chance. So I say that to uplift us, not to diminish others, but to say that it is great to be in this room, in this space of people that know exactly what the fuck they want to contribute to society, whatever that is.
What is the thing that we have that the people in that generation didn't? Social media.
A lot more things, a lot more freedom. I would say a
The
lot.
main thing is we're able to see lifestyles. We're able to, like, you can just be
You
in the
can
middle
get
of your Virginia
information so
day,
much faster.
and then you can tap into a California lifestyle instantly. You can tap into a New York lifestyle. Your awareness has to be shifted as a result of seeing this, you know? And I think that the idea that, like, you know, other generations just didn't want to, it's like, nah, I don't really believe it. You know, I don't believe on my ancestors' wildest dreams. I believe on what they fought for.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they what they sacrificed for, right? But they were their wildest dreams. I'm my dreams, you know. I think that they were dreaming for an opportunity for me to be able to exercise some freedom and some autonomy, right? But I think that in me doing that, one, it needs to honor the past, but also it needs to just make way for the future. So I don't want to believe social media is going to be a part of their future, right? So it's like, how can I get you to see it in a way that is constructive? How can I get us to use it in a way that's constructive? But also, how can I suggest it? Like I just suggested, social media have closing hours,
Yeah.
right? I do have ideas for how too much of something can be negative, right? But I don't used to be too. So when I was growing up, I grew up in a neighborhood called Camelot. We had a store. It was cool, right? We had a school, right? So, but we used to say in the summer, like, yo, you can go a whole summer without leaving Camelot. You got everything you need right here. You got family, you got
Camelot
parties,
store.
you got the store, you got everything
The
you need
church
right here.
next
You
door.
got a
That was
church.
my
Like, you
family's
got-
church.
You know, at this store, you could get hot sauce, white Air Forces, a
Yeah.
T-shirt. Like, you could get what
Shit,
you
fresh
need.
as hell.
Right?
Fact.
So that was so small-minded of us, right? It was the world we knew, right? I think a lot of times social media people are just only even if they are contributing, they're only bringing the world they know, right? But something that I learned as a writer is that we write to discover the things we don't know. We write to discover the things we still need to learn, right? And I wish people use social media for that.
That's
Right? discover more, to evolve more, to bloom, right? And I think people now are using social media like, oh, I'm angry. Let me go on social media and look for another reason to be angry.
Right.
Now let me find a quote that excuses my anger and completely blames it on everybody else who makes me mad. And then now let me find something else, right? And it's just
Let me leave a negative comment here on something that I don't like.
You know,
Can I ask y'all a
compound thing.
question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Especially everyone is here. Everyone here is a father except for me. The two of you have black men as sons, and so I definitely want to ask you this too, Mars. What are you telling, and what will you tell your young people when it comes to social and not only social media, right, but just the internet, right? Like
Ooh, that's a good fucking
like,
question.
Rob, what are you? Because you have a large presence online, what does that conversation look like in his development? What does that look like in the development of just like, what do you say to that? Because this is a part of our life now. And what do you say to the people that have young people that are looking up to them and young black men that are in this new age of the internet and social media? What advice do you give to them?
For my son, I try to make it less about social media and more about who his identity and who he understands himself to be.
Yeah.
I think that in the Matrix, Morpheus, he says, somebody responds to him like, not everybody believes what you do, right? And he's like, my beliefs don't require them to, right? And I just thought it was an eloquent response because I need my son to know that your beliefs are yours. You may try to share them on the internet, but you don't need everybody to confirm them. You don't need to fit in on the internet to be loved, right? And I think that when you talk about the vastness of that conversation, it's not a one-time thing. It is something that's a part of them. I did not have social media in high school, right? So when I left school, unless you lived out my neighborhood, it was over with. You weren't in my world, right? Now these people can exist in your room all day, 3 a.m., 2 a.m. It's a different existence. So the goal for me with my son is, one, to hear him out, but two, to monitor his consumption, right? One, what are you watching? Why are you interested in that? How do you feel when you consume that, right? What does it make you think about afterwards, right? Did you know, I try to present like scientific facts and stuff, right? So did you know that if you had a game and you were to stay off of social media for that hour before game time, that you would be calmer, that you would respond quicker, that your cognitive ability would be more polished, all of these things. So my goal is to just try to stir up things that we can talk about when it comes to social media.
Word.
My goal is to trust my parenting and know that my kid is not going to operate outside himself in a way that's detrimental, right? Should he do that, my goal is to be someone who responds appropriately and not someone who responds with my own ideas and beliefs. You know, I do not know how I think his generation is going to be bored with social media. I think they really like YouTube more than anything else. You know, I don't think that they're going to love it and be fascinated with it in the same way that we are, because they're not going to be the daily active users. They be deleting posts, right? They can have a basketball season and delete every picture before track season. So they just operate differently when it comes to that. And then, you know, they really helped me understand that the internet is like really fake. You have a 14-year-old with like 4 accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a backup for his backup for the backup
For the fence stuff, for the
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so it's just so wide and rangy. But I really think that it's a ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
As my son ages, as things happen in the world, as I see different things, because he loves TikTok, right? And I'm not on TikTok, so I don't completely understand TikTok, right? But I just try not to overreact about any of this. You know, I feel like I am going to serve you till my last dying breath, and you are going to be all right as a result of that. And the mistakes you make, I am trying to provide a cushion that builds up your resiliency, right? And outside of that, I try not to make it such a thing, partly because I am popular there, right? But also because I try. So you asked me during the panel, what was that air of privacy that I kept and why I didn't post, certain amounts, right? It's because of my son. I don't want him to think that the gist of all of this is because it's an internet thing. Well, my son knows. He knows it's a real business. There are really books moving. There's really things that, I done seen my dad do 7 things this week and didn't post it on social media. So it can't just be about that, right? Because the idea or his belief could be easy to misconstrue that it's just about that, right? And there's a purpose to how I move in reinforcing the fact that there is a lot more going on. And that should just be a side aspect, right? So that's a long answer to say that I'm still navigating the ongoing conversation. He's 16, right?
Yeah. For me, it's a bit different. You have a 16-year-old. I saw him pulling up for a 3 on a fast break the other day on
my
IG.
big dog, yeah.
But nah, mine, he's 3.
That was basketball talk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
What the hell? It's
Yeah,
like,
so that was basketball.
he said,
Yeah.
y'all speaking hieroglyph? Nah.
Right.
But so I would say my son is, he's 3. He's turning 4 this year. So my big thing is more so leading by example, because he's learning to be human through me, through his mother, right now. So it's not so much talks about social media because he's not exposed to it. He doesn't know, right? So it's more so just leading by example. And what I mean by that is whenever I'm around him, being present, putting my phone down, being present, making sure that when he speaks to me, if I'm on my phone, it goes down in my pocket somewhere, but just not giving him half-ass attention, right? Being very fully present.
Yeah.
To your point, he is 3. We do screen time. We limit it. It's 35. It's 30 minutes to 45 on average a day. 30 to 45 minutes on average a day of TV time, right? All educational. He reads books like a madman. He will go through English, Spanish, it doesn't matter. He will read books, and we love that. And we just try to instill a lot of playtime, a lot of things that we just don't want him to just sit around and just be watching TV, because I've had some family members that do that, and they are very, very heavily into social media, into their phones, right? Because as you said, it's like, I don't want to misphrase your quote, but it's like how they grew up and what they grew up knowing is essentially the traits that they're going to continue to carry into adulthood, because 90-something% of what we do every day is what we did yesterday.
Habit, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's more so having him explore his creativity at this point. This morning, he had headphones on. He was listening to a kid's audiobook playing with Legos, right? So it's like giving him some type of consumption in media, but that's very educational and beneficial for him, so that when he is consuming media on social media, he's looking for things that are educational, that are beneficial, more than he's just looking for entertainment.
You made me think of something, in the sense that there is a certain element of mature use that's happening.
Yeah.
Because in 2005, just for say you would hang out, you would go to a party, you might have a digital camera, you're gonna upload 200 pictures to Facebook.
Boy.
Right? Just the whole roll.
The whole
You
clip.
just uploading the whole roll. Nowadays, people maybe 10 pictures max, right? 7. There's already a maturity in our usage that's happening
There's a discipline
with our generation.
Yeah.
Right? So I definitely think it's going to come moving forward, because if we were to tell them what, we just upload all 300 pictures. You just put the SD card in there, upload them
let
all.
it rip.
Right? And then you just had 20 albums of different weekends.
Yeah.
Right? With a lot of features tagged, and it's that would be ridiculous nowadays. So I do think there are some elements of maturity happening, but much like us in previous generations, we probably overestimate our maturity.
That's
Man.
what I would say. I would teach my daughter.
That's what I was
It's
just about to ask you.
teaching
What would you
Hell
teach
yeah.
her?
mindset,
Yeah.
and kind of how you said identity will alleviate all the other problems, right? I like to think that if I teach her and if I teach them I'm just getting used to having two. But if I teach them how to be,
How old is your second girl now?
she's 1 now.
Okay.
She just turned 1. So,
Hey.
but if I teach them how to live, they can live without me. So if I'm gone tomorrow, this is why I'm telling you. This is why I'm teaching you this. So, yeah, I mean, as a whole, I can't really say that it is a hindrance, because that's, like you said, it's a choice for that person for something to be a hindrance to them, right? However, I just don't believe we have enough people with the proper like mindset to not allow it to be a hindrance, and that's the only. That's why I'm on that stance, and then that's why kind of where the rareness comes from, because the choice part. Like
And,
people
I
that
mean-
make that choice, are far few in between nowadays, shall I say?
Yeah, you're not denying the reality that you see and experience.
Yeah.
And I give credence to that.
Yeah.
It's 100%. If you see a lack of that, you're gonna be inclined to believe that that's the majority. And I see it mostly in how people show up on their socials, right? There's like a point in my manhood where I finally understood the difference between confidence and ego, right? And it's like social media is the ultimate playground for those two things, right? And you see people who try to portray ego as confident. Like it's just a interesting balance with those things, and when we talk about our kids and how they should navigate, I just think that is something we should stay impressionable and moldable about, because the way we see it just might not be how it really is.
I See You, Bro is brought to you by the Can Foundation. The Can Foundation is an arts nonprofit organization founded by artists for artists.
The CAN is dedicated to building sustainable careers for the creative class through artist development, arts education, and public art projects.
By creating a community, they empower artists, foster creativity, and contribute to the sustainable growth of the artistic ecosystem at large. To learn more about the CAN Foundation, visit their Instagram, Contemporary Arts Network, or their website at thecontemporaryartsnetwork.com.
I was gonna ask, because this goes right into this. How much do we play a factor into the state of the youth and the culture, the people that come after us?
Undeniably, we play a huge factor. When we talk about the way social media is impacting the youth, it's huge. But to me, that's why I say the youth are underserved, because all they're getting is our fear and our complaints. And they're getting bombarded with this, and that is not a comprehensive way of looking at life.
Right.
That's
It's
what
not
we
even
got,
a
too.
complete picture, right? It's a bullying, so to speak, right? Because I think that's what they're experiencing. So when I think about like today's 18-year-old young man or young girl, and they're looking at social media influences, and they see the 50-year-old man doing the same thing the 25-year-old man is doing, I think that there is going to be some conflict, right?
Confusion.
And there's going to be some confusion, right? But there also may be a complete turn towards apathy, like forget it all. I'm not interested in any of it. It doesn't matter. Nothing's real. Right? And I think that's probably the worst, in the sense that we get to influence whether there is a hopeful generation or not. We get to influence whether, because right now, if you ask young, like it's very wide, but if you ask young people about marriage, they're like, forget that. I can do my own thing. You know what I mean? But is that from experience, or is that from
Because
being
of videos like
bombarded
that,
with people's fears and people's unprocessed
horror
crap
stories
and their horror stories, right? Now, how many people are telling stories just to fit in?
Right.
Now, how many people are exaggerating their traumas to have the worst pain? Because
no way to fact
we
check.
don't just want to be hurt; we want to be the most hurt. Right? Like, yo, you ain't been hurt like me. Oh, you went through that? Nah, I went through this, and
if
this.
you've ever been to rehab
you
or
think
AA
you think you
meeting,
felt pain?
Right? So it's like
Yeah.
we
That
want to
takes a while.
outdo. And when I think about that, I think that is completely irresponsible to the youth.
Yeah.
Right? Because way before social media, we had Flavor Flav. They was wilding out. They was doing their thing, right? So I don't think social media makes people act like that. Maybe cameras do, right? I'm not sure. But I am aware of how the things I repeat will impact the young people following me.
Yeah.
How the things that I give life to will impact the young people following me. I have to ask myself, what were my motives? What were my true desires? Where was I with my self-esteem? I am confronted with a whole clash of thoughts that challenge my personal trust, right? We should not cast the world off as untrustworthy just because we have experiences with mistrust. And when you do that, you start to, because I believe that our words are most powerful of our life, you start to create the life that you are going to live because
Right.
you're talking about it. You're saying it. I can't trust anybody, so guess what? You will attract people who betray your confidence. You will attract people who
Untrustworthy people, yeah.
conflict with your beliefs, right? You saying that I can't believe in everybody. Everybody just out here negative, and you will attract people who complain to you. You will attract people who misuse your time, right? And misuse your energy. You will be drained, right? And that's why I am just very conscious of this, because when the Bible says it's a living word, it's not just biblically. These are living words, right? And we have the real-time opportunity to change, the real-time opportunity to course correct, right? And the one thing I promise my son nowadays, this is probably bigger than any social media conversation, is that I refuse to be a robot. If we go every day this way, tomorrow we're going to just go this way.
Right.
And just figure it out.
Yep.
If we, I refuse to be a robot, and I think that a lot of this programming, the ease of convenience, it's turning us into like autopilot in the
The
worst
ease of
way.
convenience.
Yeah.
Autopilot in the worst way,
One of the
Um,
biggest, I guess, initiatives of 2020.
Yeah. But my thing is like, the people who have molded, the people who have molded this society the longest, are they really invested in the informed population?
Nope.
Right? Or do they need us to be entertainment focused,
Cattle.
right? So that we can continue as we have,
Right.
right? Or do we have the choice to see differently into the youth? Right? Because we are aware of how we were seeded into and some things we believe. I don't know if you all were told, but when I heard Tupac say, and though it seems evident we ain't ready to see a black president, at the same time, people in my family were
was
saying,
upset about
you got
that.
2 strikes against you. You black and you a man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you need to exist in this world in a different way and all of that. So it's like these things have kind of been on us for a long time. I don't know if social media is going to alleviate them more so than we are, right? But to kind of bring that point to a head, give me a moment. Let me
All
just
good.
think for a moment.
I can pick up, man. We play, to your point, a major role. I'm realizing it as a father, seeing this young kid, like, he's looking up to me. I go to fix my shoe while we out in public, he's gonna fix his shoe. You know what I'm saying? I'm walking a certain way, he's gonna walk the same way I'm walking. Like, he's learning to be a human through me, right? To that point, I feel now, with social media, I'm at a point, right, where I just want, if I'm there, it's to contribute. I'm literally not posting anything unless it's to contribute. I feel it's a heavy responsibility because I do sit up sometimes and it's like, what world would I, at least envision for my son, right? And it's like, if I can do anything in my power, it's to leave things better off than what they were. And so with I See You, Bro, I think we can make a great impact because we've had youth. We've had the next generation at our events, 20-year-olds at our events, right? So I say that to say, like, it's on us, and not, and it may sound like a burden. It's really not. It's a blessing to
It's an
have this
opportunity.
responsibility,
Yeah.
this opportunity to influence the youth, to create community, to create environments and spaces for folks to be vulnerable, to reflect, to grow, right? And to continue pushing that forward. My disdain with social media is that there's not more of it. Because, like, to Rob's point, you said that there are people fighting the fight that we want to fight. Those numbers are just too few. Maybe for my liking. Because I believe, and my message will always be, is we are way more powerful than they have led us to believe.
Oh, easily.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like social media kind of takes away from that sometimes in different ways. But for those that know themselves, those that know their purpose, can use it
Mm-hmm.
to drive the change that we want to see, right? So my disdain just comes from what I've been seeing for these years that I've been online, and it's really hasn't been much progression. It's to the point where, like, sometimes I wonder, what's the point? I keep it because I know that, like you said, the message travels further. I could stand on top of of a empty parking lot, right, and just yell out, "Hey, come to I See You, bro, on Saturday." Who the fuck gonna listen? We post that shit online, it's gonna be heard, it's gonna be received, right? So I think we have a great potential to help the youth and culture that come after us. You know, it is a responsibility that we have to carry with us, you know, to ensure that we do it, you know, the right way and to the best of our ability. But even social media aside, just being pillars in our families, in our communities, serving the right way, is all gonna lead towards positive change. I said this quote before the show. Somebody said, Frederick Douglass said this. If y'all want to Google it, go ahead. But it said it's easier to raise strong children than to fix broken adults,
Mm-hmm.
right? We took on the challenge to help fix some broken adults, though, fellas. But that is in hopes that they pay it forward.
Big children.
You know what I'm saying? But
Y'all just big children.
it's in the hopes that they pay it forward,
Yeah.
right? Because we're all flawed humans. We're just trying to get it right. But all the traumas, everything we experienced, all the hurdles we had to overcome, we can help the next generation not have to go through the same things and kind of just take a few leaps, get ahead of us a bit quicker. Things that I learned at 25, my son gonna learn at 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these things, we have the ability to influence now that we're in this position, and we have people that look to us. We have people that we can lead, and we have a purpose that we can follow. So if you have your thought, love to hear it. If not, if you need a little more time, would love to get y'all perspective on it too.
I'm just gonna add a little bit is that, yeah, obviously we have a huge I wouldn't say burden, but a huge part in influencing the youth, no matter if we want to intentionally or not. As men, I believe, you know, like you said, you're looking at Tino, but that's your son, you know, and when we talk about kids, they're going to naturally look up to us because they're our offspring most of the time, right? And we're providing for them, so they're going to look up to us. But no matter where you are, youth is looking at you, right?
Yeah.
You can be at the stove, and youth is looking at you, watching you, no matter if they have a father figure at home or not, right? This is why a lot of our young men and young women's influencers are, you know, Sexy Red and
Watch it.
Little Baby, and it don't matter. I wouldn't want my daughter's you know, influencer to be Sexy Red. So you see what I'm saying? So I mean, there are different
Fucking Brenton.
influencers out there. It don't matter. We're all we
Y'all
have
know
that.
how I feel about
Hey,
her. Don't.
that's okay. You
Let's
let
not
whatever
do-
breathe you need to.
Let's
you know
not
what I
let's
mean?
not
But-
do that
Oh
this
my
podcast.
God. But we have to have the right influencers, and so since people really
Yo.
don't understand that they're an influencer, no matter if they're doing it intentionally or not,
Mhm.
and with so many ill intentional influencers out there, it's just, you know, we definitely have a huge, I wouldn't say burden, but it's definitely happening regardless.
Yeah.
When you said ill intention influences, it kind of made me think about it's kind of been a theme throughout, but that contributor consumer conversation. And the reason why I just said because like what a beautiful opportunity to get back and not just sit back and say all of this is supposed to serve me.
Right.
Yeah.
All of this is supposed to entertain me. It's supposed
Right.
to serve me. It's supposed to be.
Right.
What a beautiful thing to just snap out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Get over yourself and give and contribute, right? To me, that is an opportunity. That's not a burden. That is not something heavy. That is an opportunity. Tupac said, I may not change the world, but I will spark the brain of the mind, right? I will spark the mind. And what an opportunity it is to spark minds.
Yeah. That's
Like
why I
just
said
by
it's
the
a-
way you living, just by the way you loving.
It's a blessing.
Just by the things you choose to represent. Like, what an opportunity that is. And I think with the youth, it's like, that should be the only mindset, right? And I think that when I talk about the ease of convenience, we've been so drunk with convenience that we have this idea that if it don't serve me, I don't have nothing for it. God did not say everything on his earth is supposed to serve you. Right? But your idea of what's serving you could be warped.
Yeah.
You could not think difficulty is serving you. You could not think that having the pain of being this annoyed by certain content is serving you, but it is.
Because it's making me want to put something
Create
that's more
something new.
contributive. Yeah. Yeah.
You can choose to just be completely angry about it, or you can choose to be an active respondent to it, right? And ultimately, it's presenting you with a choice. They say anything that we're annoyed by or pained by is a sign of where we're supposed to be serving.
God damn
It's
it.
a sign of how we're supposed to be impacted, right? And that's why I brought up the context of we can't antagonize and influence at the same time. Because at the end of the day, we all are trying to influence people to live a better life, right? Regardless of whether we're annoyed by them or not, you know. So when I think about this opportunity with the youth, when I think about the opportunity with just our generation as a whole, I think if we can reframe it in a way that is not, oh, I'm putting these niggas on my back. You know what I mean? Like I'm carrying, right? That's not really what it is.
Sparking ideas.
You get an opportunity to spark an idea, right? And at the end of your days, you get a chance to have a conversation with God. And he gets to say, how did you use the gifts I gave you? How did you treat the people I assigned in your life? Did you abandon them? Did you just try to find your own people, right? Or did you love the people I assigned you to love? Did you serve the people I assigned you to love, right? And I think that these questions are important because they can't be answered on social media,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. For sure.
That's been a present in an active lesson that I'm learning.
What is
What it looks, what that looks like. So your question was like, what's our influence on the youth, right? I just had a niece. I don't have kids, but a lot of my life have been called to serve young people, right? And I've always wondered why.
Bro, you are like amazing around young
Yeah,
kids,
I love.
bro. It is
so,
crazy.
So my niece, I just had my first niece. She's 5 months today. Before she got here, I created this whole list of things that I needed to be for her by the time she got here. None of those things happened. So I had a choice. I said, okay, well, you're not none of those things. And so there was a shame, there was a guilt there, right? And there was something that clicked into me and said, the best thing that you can do for her is to be present and to show her how you live and how you love. And that is going to be the best thing that you can do for her, because essentially what you're doing on the other end, the other option, is to force upon this facade of a blueprint.
I went through that almost before I had my son.
And the internet will tell us that we have to do this in this certain amount of time. It has to look this way. You have to like be healed from these things in order to be acceptable or be considered Black excellence. And it's like, I can't do that to her. And I can't do that to myself. And I can't do that to the people around me. And so it's been a consistent challenge every day to say, the best thing that you can do to have influence on not only the young people around you, but the adults around you, is to show them how you live and how you love. And so my challenge every day in that has been to be like, respond how you really want to respond. Don't respond from a place of how the culture teaches you to respond. Or don't love from a reactive or a transactional place. Like, be human and present. Like, tell people that you're sad. Let people know that you hurt them. If you want to talk to them, call them. If you're not your best self, but you still want to be around, still show up and be present. You know? And so that
Speaking right now, yeah.
that is what my hope is. That's what my purpose is right now, because I think purpose changes as you change and as you evolve. And so
Well, would you think like purpose change or how you serve that purpose changes?
Purpose can change too.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
I think that my purpose has changed based off of the season that I'm in and where I've gone through, because there's an overarching purpose, right, for me. Yeah. But there are different things that I'm like working towards in that season, right?
Makes sense.
And so I think the overall purpose for me, right, like is to live and to love and to be present and to know God. That's my purpose. Does that change and the expression of that change every season? Yes.
That's fair. For sure.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys this question to wrap us up? What advice would all of y'all, because like you said, this is the conversation has now turned into, when we talk about the media's impact on culture and youth, we now have the conversation about identity and purpose. What advice would you give to the listeners, to people that are listening, when it comes to they may be struggling with their place in culture and what their thing may be? I talk to a lot of people and they're like, I don't know what my thing is. And they oftentimes I challenge people, especially being someone who is public, right? I often kind of discourage it. I'm like, yo, your expression doesn't have to be seen, right? And so it's like,
look at him getting rid of the competition. No, I'm just
like, nah. It's because if you know me, it is no competition. It's like, No. So like, what advice would you give to people that like are having a hard time, like just finding their place in culture or their place of impact, especially when we live in a culture that says, if it ain't seen, it ain't valuable?
I would say as somebody that absolutely does not care to be seen, but will probably end up in that place somewhere or another, clearly, because we are on camera. But I will say it's at one point I did care about being seen because I wanted to be seen, right? I wanted to feel like I was seen, right? But that came from feeling lonely, right? Not feeling like I had community or just people around me at that time. What I will say for advice for those having trouble, just figuring out their place in culture and society, and just even if they're lost in terms of identifying their purpose or their own identity, is just, if you're having trouble and you're currently on social media, you're currently consuming social media or life through other people's eyes or experiences, take a step away from it for a second. Even if it's on a daily basis, like, give more time to yourself than you are to social media in this very time, right? Use that time to really discover who you are, right? Ask yourself certain questions in terms of like, what am I good at? What are my skills? What do I believe my gifts are? Once you uncover what you feel your gifts are, it starts to lead you down this path I like to do this. I like this. This is easy for me. Right? It's easy for me to get up, present, tell a story, and connect with people. Why? Because that's a that's a gift. I've been blessed with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been blessed with the gift to write and relate to people, right? In a way that you've been doing it for 10 years. That's not easy, bro. You've been doing 10 plus, right? It's not easy to do that, right? It's just we all have gifts. Brenton, you have this energy, man, that spreads throughout an entire room.
Thank you, bro.
It's crazy. Mars, you give so much sometimes I wonder if you're giving enough to yourself. Like, and that in itself is a gift. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you're probably running on fumes, still giving, right? But it's just, I say that to say it's like really take time away from viewing life through other people's lenses and figure out what you would like your life to look like through yours, right?
That's
through your
good
eyes,
advice. That's
right?
good.
And that's the advice I would give. 'Cause that's definitely something I wish I would have heard. Shit, I had to figure that out. But yeah.
Can I jump in?
Oh, yeah, go
let's do
ahead.
it. Yeah.
Wherever you're sitting.
I took this course in New York a few years ago.
Mhm.
It's called Momentum Education. It was a great course, but there was this big banner in the course, and what it said on the banner was, "What are you pretending not to know?" And I thought that was such a foundational question. So the
Damn.
person who does not feel like they're fitting in, the person who does not have that sense of belonging, what are you pretending not to know about yourself? Are you pretending to know that you're not in the right environment? Are you pretending that you don't need love? Are you pretending that you don't know your real gifts and your real purpose? Are you pretending to like stuff that you don't even like, but it's popular, right? What are you pretending not to know? And I think a lot of people know, like, God is never silent. Our intuition, that part of us, that inner voice that's speaking, it's there, right? And we can mute it. We can decide not to listen, but it's going to be talking if we tap into it, right? And I think a lot of people are pretending not to know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to.
For fear of that truth,
away.
that ugly truth.
It's easier to be someone else in this modern society. It's easier to pretend, right? It's because you can detach from people's reactions, right? I think that the challenge in this is for people to take full ownership of the things that they know deep down in their spirit, the things that they know God put there, right? And it's hard for me to separate spirituality from any of this context because it's like I believe we're just spiritual beings on the human path, right? So I think that, if people can, I just want to say stop acting like they don't know, right? And many will say, well, I don't know. I don't know my purpose. And I'll ask them, what are the things that pain you most about the world? What is the last thing that happened in society that really angered you? Was it a kid being murdered? Was it a woman being raped? Was it the banks being bailed out, right? Was it a dishonest politician? Is it seeing a family at the park and feeling an absence? What is it, Because I do think that there are real life things that we can explore that can help us all. So anybody who, like I said, is that sense of belonging, it really is a perspective issue, right? And most times you just have to ask people, like, why do you want to be separate so bad? Right? Like, why do you need that so bad? And what is keeping you safe as a result of keeping these ideas? And what can we do to help you release some of these things that you've probably been holding on to for a long time? That's probably the advice I give to somebody who said that they had some trouble in the belonging aspects, right? And then along with the tangible things that Yuri said, right, which is zoning out, not being so consumed with that. Of course, I would suggest that. But I think that people are way more brilliant than they reveal.
Right.
And my goal is, how can I get you to be comfortable revealing that brilliance? How can I get you to be comfortable revealing that authenticity? regardless of my response, regardless of how I react to it, right? How can I get you to trust that independent of reactions, independent of reception, right? Because what we need is for people to do that weird dance long enough for everybody to break out doing the same one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need people to do that. And that's just really my goal while I'm loving, while I'm interacting. But I'm really just trying to reinforce that with people is the idea that you always have to be found is a myth. Enjoy the wilderness. Wander a little bit, right? Go explore some paths that are not familiar to you. You are going to find out that you were equipped with things that you have not yet tapped into.
That's good.
But they were with you the whole time. So I just want to emphasize
That's
that.
good. That's good.
That's my advice. Basically what you said in a nutshell is to just live, you know, live through experience, live through heartache, live through happiness, live through, just live, you know what I mean? And then the answers to the questions that you mentioned, how you bring it out of people will just start, those answers will be there, right?
Yeah.
Because you've lived through, you know, happiness and heartache so that you already know the answers to those questions that you're asking. All my life, I wanted to be heard. I'd never had a problem being seen. It's really weird, right? 'Cause people can be seen but not heard, and some people can be heard but not seen.
All my life, I
so-
wanted to be heard.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
weird, right?
I was gonna ask, but that's a conversation after.
I've always been seen, you know. I just
Mhm.
never felt heard. So I had to realize that that's what I wanted to be, was heard, right? And so that's kind of how some of my purpose, you know, what you want the most in life kind of can help with what your purpose is, and just stop chasing purpose. I try to tell people this all the time. Stop chasing purpose.
It'll
you know?
find like
It
you'll
will.
it'll
Live.
uncover itself
Patience,
in your
you know,
journey.
patience.
Mhm.
Just live, and then those specific questions. Everybody's, you know, aha question is different, but some of those questions you had and you posed to people are super real. Like, what pains you? What keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
Combating that in some way is probably your purpose.
I heard somebody say, if everyone likes you, then you're not being your authentic self.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'm like, dang.
Well.
Because if I really was being my real self in a lot of spaces,
Nobody would really fuck with you. Like
you
that.
get what I'm saying? Not in a bad way, right?
that's how I was in
but
high
everyone
school.
probably wouldn't be
A lot of
agree.
people didn't
and
want
I
to be around me.
and
in
I think
high
that's
school.
okay. I think that's okay, right?
that's all right.
But yo, shout out to y'all, and shout out to I See You, bro, a space dedicated to us not having to know the answers all the time, but a space also dedicated to us just providing a space for us to be dynamic and for us to discuss all of the things, right? Shout out to people like Rob and Yuri and Mars who create space for us to not have to know everything, right? And we always say, before I move on, we don't want to, these are not the answers. These are just open conversations that allow you to process and hear perspective. You know, we're just all sharing our journeys with you. So shout out to everybody that's listening.
This is
It was fire, right?
shit.
It was fire. It was
Shit.
absolutely fire.
Yeah, Rob, let them know where they can follow you, purchase a book. Just
I am Rob Hill Sr., ROBHILLSR, on all platforms. The quickest spot to see all my books would be Barnes & Noble or Amazon.
word.
I own them, so just support me wherever you can. I will be fine.
Let's go.
And I appreciate the love. Shout out to I See You, bro, each of you.
Thank you,
The
bro.
team behind the scenes who is not on camera. You guys welcome me here. It's very smooth. But the purpose behind this, right, is just very clear. So I appreciate you all. When I accepted the invite, it's very easy. Naturally, the event made a great impression, but I understand the necessity of the work. And I would hate for me to not accept the invite and us to miss an opportunity to show how effective what you all do is, but also the synergy that we have, right? Because I think we all could leave here a little bit more hopeful.
Yeah.
I can't see you guys and ignore the fact that it's men doing it, you know? So I respect that. I appreciate that. And you guys give me many versions, which is this is one thing. If you really get to know me, I appreciate this more than anything. If you exist as somebody I could point my son to, and that's a path. That's a path you can take, and I will point him to you. 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 That is the most gratitude I
Thank
can
you,
Nah,
bro.
that honestly, as
You
a
get what I'm
father,
saying?
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
That's the most gratitude I
Thank
can
you.
get because I don't want my son to grow up believing he's trapped or pigeonholed or any of that. I want him to know that's a path, that's a path, that's a path. Let me learn from him. Let me sit at his feet. Let me ask him questions. Let me be curious. You will never know how valuable that is, right? So for the youth, for the people in media, all of that, you know,
Thank you, bro.
thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I exist only because people want to listen. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
grateful.
Thank you.
sure, appreciate all you do. Appreciate your time and being here, man. This was one hell of an episode, fellas.
Yeah.
Like
it
this
good.
was a
It was
great
long, though.
conversation. Don't give
was
a
good,
damn.
though.
It didn't even feel that long. No, honestly, no. This was something I felt. I'm leaving here.
It's good.
I'm learning something, right? I'm learning something about kind of our message. I'm learning. This, like I said, there's gonna be a car ride where I'm sitting and thinking, right? Hopefully, the listeners gain something from this. We appreciate y'all tuning in. There were some controversial topics, maybe some sides. Whether you're for social media or believe it's a hindrance, there's many different sides that you could have taken on this for different reasons, right? Whether it's your experience or if you agree with how we feel. Share in the comments a little bit about your experience or just whether you agree with us or not. And we love to hear your experience or your perspective on that. It's your boy Yuri, and we out.
Yeah.
Peace.